Namaskar. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Know Your Mind, which is a special series that we have started recently. Last week, we went through some of the aspects of the mind and tried to understand it, and I hope you all found it interesting. We will continue with what we were discussing last time. Last time, we understood why it is so important to know the mind, our life, the direction it takes, our happiness, our comforts, our success, our failures. Everything, the quality of our life depends on our mind. And yet, many of us don't go into the depths of how this mind works. It is a tool that is given to us to transact in this world. And if we don't know how to use it properly to its best potential, then we are not using the tool as we should. So we saw last time that the mind, there are different levels of the mind. Sometimes you're restless, which is called kshipt. Sometimes you're restless, and sometimes we are focused, so which is vikshipta. Then mood mind is one that is lazy and impulsive, and ekagra mind is one that is focused, and niruddha mind is one that has already reached that control, total control of the mind, mastermind as we call it. Then we also saw the different functions of the mind. What does the mind do? Through the five senses, it perceives information from the outer world, and then it processes it, observes it, and then expresses it. So there is from out to in perception, in to in, you observe the mind, how it performs, and then you express through your words or through your actions, right? That is the first function of the mind. The second function of the mind is that it keeps swaying between the past and the present. Sometimes our mind is involved in the past thoughts, sometimes in the future, and very rarely do we find our mind fixed in the present, which is the best state to be in, because when you are in the present moment, you are neither anxious about the future nor guilty or angry about the past. The third function of the mind is making choices. Depending on our experiences, depending on our past experiences, depending on the past nature of thoughts that we have, we make choices depending on what we want to do. So these are the three main functions of the mind that we discussed. Now I'm going to today, we also discussed that mind or manas is man, buddhi, chit, and ahankar. It is your mind, your intellect, your memory, and your ego. So these are the major divisions that the rishis or our ancient scientists who have done extensive research on the mind have given us guidelines to work on. So I would like to put on my PowerPoint presentation, which I shared with you last time, and go on from there to discuss. Yeah, can you all see the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, how do I get rid of this black on the top so that I can start the slideshow?
Ma'am, you need to press Alt, Control, Shift, and K.
Can you do
Alt,
that? Can you do that for me?
We are
uh,
able to see the screen clearly.
I
We don't
can't
have
do it.
any
But
black
ma'am,
screen.
there is no black patch, so you can use it, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we were discussing about the mind and how it works, the functions of the mind we looked into. and basically the four aspects of the mind: manas, buddhi, chit, and ahankar. And then we also discussed the functions of the intellect, the functions of the intellect being understanding and analyzing the information that we receive from outside. Then misunderstanding or viparya. So sometimes we do understand a situation clearly, but most of the time our conflicts, our miseries, our discomforts depend upon the viparya or the misunderstanding, which means that sometimes I believe that if I get angry, I will get my work done. If I shout at this person, he will do what I'm asking him to do. So that is a viparya, a misunderstanding. In fact, we know how it functions. The other person may resist and may feel enmity towards you and may not like the way you talk. So these are things that sometimes we work on misunderstanding, on viparya, right? Then the third function of the intellect is making choices from options given by the mind. The mind is constantly giving us options: do this or do that, wake up or sleep more, go for exercise or don't exercise, eat the sweet or don't eat the sweet. So, all these options are being given by the mind until that moment where you make your choice, which is what the intellect does. Then the intellect, we discussed last time, also helps you to label your experiences as happy, as sad, which means it is judgmental. And depending on what the intelligence deciphers the experience as, that impression is then what is imprinted on the mind. The fifth function of the intellect is logic, which means that we keep justifying every action that we do. Every thought in my mind, if I like that thought, I'm going to justify it, whether it is in a proper understanding or whether it is a misunderstanding. So one has to be aware of how the intellect works. We first learned how the mind works. Yeah. It perceives, it observes, and then it expresses through speech and through action. It also keeps modulating between the past and the present. And the third, it keeps giving you options of choices. The intellect then understands, analyzes. Sometimes it may not be based on the truth. So we are working on a misunderstanding or a misconception. Then we also the intellect also makes choices. It labels your experience, and then we are also constantly justifying what we do. Now, today we are going to discuss a little more on the chit and the ahankar. The four levels of the mind, as we discussed, are the man, the buddhi, the chit, and the ahankar. So let us understand what chit is. Chit is pure individual awareness, and it is also the silo of memory that we have in our body, not only in our brain, but it is in each and every cell of our body. The mind is not situated in the brain, but it is a mind field. Yeah. So the levels of consciousness that we are talking about over here are avrut chetna, which means covered chetna, which is in the trees, plants, creepers, mountains. Actually, if we go to see, consciousness is present in everything that exists in nature, whether living or non-living, whether it is char or achar, which means it is whether it is mobile or not mobile, there is consciousness present in everything. In the mountains, it may be the least because it is permanently, it is stable, it is stabilized, it does not move, it does not have intelligence, it is not evolved yet. But everything in this nature which has been created has consciousness. And we call this avrat consciousness when it is in trees, plants, creepers, and mountains. Whereas it is sankuchit chetana, contracted consciousness in aquatics, birds, beasts. So these are the second level of evolution. From the Stone Age, we moved into higher levels of consciousness, and the the creatures that existed in water and earth had a little more consciousness than the creepers and the mountains. The birds and the beasts also have a little more consciousness than the inert materials, right? Then we have the Mukulit Chetna, or the budding consciousness, which only human beings have. See, we human beings are the most evolved species of all the species in the world. And we are the only species that have discrimination, vivek, which means we are able to decipher what is between what is good and what is bad. That discriminative power is given only to human beings. The power of making a choice between this and that is given only to human beings. The rest of them, the beasts and the birds, they work on their natural instincts alone. Yeah, so we are very special, and we need to understand these tools that have been given to us. So Viksit Chetna is a blossoming consciousness, which again is given only to human beings. And Purna Viksit, or completely blossomed consciousness is given only to, again, only to human beings. So these are levels of spiritual awakening, or levels of conscious evolution, we can call it that. But Chit is basically a silo of memory where we store the imprints and impressions of whatever experiences we have had, whatever thoughts we think, and their effect on our mind. So we must be very clear about the importance of the impressions that we create in our mind. Through what are we creating this impression? Through the five senses, and what we expose our five senses to, which means that whatever I read, whatever I see, whatever I hear, whatever I feel, whatever I touch, whatever I smell, are all leaving imprints on my mind. And based on these imprints or memories or experiences, my thoughts arise in my mind, my choices are made, the intellect works on those memories and those impressions and those experiences that are imprinted on my mind. And we may think that I am not really consciously listening to something that is going on in the TV or the radio, but the subconscious mind is actually recording everything. So we have to remember this. Then, just to remember what levels of consciousness we have the Chetan, which is conscious. I am awake, I am aware of everything that is happening, right? I see forms, I can put names to it, and I remember whatever is happening. That is conscious mind. Achetan mind is your subconscious mind, where all these impressions and imprints are being registered, right? So we are creating our memory bank by whatever we do, whatever we see, whatever we feel, whatever quality of inputs we put into our mind. And when we keep repeating these actions or imprints, then they become grooves in our minds, they become tendencies and habits. If I get up in the morning and I brush my teeth and I'm having a bath, it is an automatic action that is happening right now. Why? Because in my childhood, for days together, repeatedly, I was taught to do that. So when there is a repeated action, it becomes a habit, right? So if I become habituate, if I am getting angry on my staff or on my house help or on my family members all the time, every day I repeat that action gets imprinted in my mind and it becomes a habit. And not only that, those habits that are repeated all our lives become our sanskars. Sanskars are these imprints that we carry from one life to the other. That is what our scriptures tell us. So we must be aware of all the habits and the tendencies of the mind, the thought patterns that we empower in our mind. All those, if we do it repeatedly, they become our nature. So if I am, miserable about something, somebody said something to me years back, and I keep remembering that, I am empowering that memory in my mind and hurting myself over something that happened years ago. And if I keep doing that over and over and over and over again, it becomes my nature to be miserable. We all over here are wanting to be happy, right? So where does happiness come from? It comes from within us. And how do we be unhappy? By repeating unhappy thoughts, by dwelling on unhappy thoughts, by not letting go of unhappy memories. That is how we create our nature, our character, our habits, our tendencies, by whatever we repeat. That is Avchetan. Then Suchetan is memory of your true nature. We have, the mistaken impression of identifying ourselves with our man, buddhi, chit, ahankar, thinking that this is what I am. But basically, our scriptures tell us that we are the Atman, the true self that actually is a witness to our mind, intellect, chit, buddhi, ahankar. We are a witness to it. We are not this. I can observe my mind. I can observe my intellect. So I am not my mind. I am not my intellect. That's why that memory of your true nature is always there in our mind. And whenever we let that surface, we are in a blissful state. So that is Suchetan consciousness, right? I know I'm dealing with a lot of scientific terms here, but I'm trying to go deeper than the normal knowledge that is, that is available to everyone. This is a little deeper knowledge. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but it is nice to be reminded of it over and over again so that we can apply it to our lives, right? So this is these are the four states of consciousness. Then there are also the three states of consciousness, which are what? Awake, that I am awake. I am awake and I'm aware. And when I am awake and I'm aware, my mind, my body, my intellect, all these are working. I am conscious of it, right? So that is the awake state. Then the rishis, ancient scientists tell us that there is a dream state or swapna state, which we know out of our own experiences. We have experienced these states every day. Dream state is the swapna state. In that state, your body is not functioning because you're asleep. Yeah, your intellect is not functioning because you're asleep, but your mind is. And this mind can take you anywhere in the world. You can, while you're dreaming, you can be in Paris or London or anywhere. Or you can be also anything you want to be. You can take any form that you want to take. So that freedom of the mind is there, but the body is not functioning, the intellect is not functioning, right? This is the dream state. Then you have the deep sleep state. There are times when we go to sleep completely and we are not aware of anything at all. So I am in deep sleep state. I am not aware of anything. So my body, my mind, my intellect is not working. What is working is myself, my causal body, as they call it, the ego. So through this, we understand that I am not my mind, I am not my body, I am not my intellect. I am there when I am deep sleep. I get up in the morning and I say, oh, what a wonderful sleep I had. So what is that I that experienced that state of nothingness? That I is your true self. And when one realizes or comes closer to that true self, one is said to be in a Turiya state of consciousness. So these are the 4 states of consciousness that our uh, rishis have explained to us in order to understand how the mind functions and to understand where you are, why you should not identify yourself with the mind, intellect, body, but use them as tools. So understand how it functions and then use them. What happens is that we think, ये मैं जो सोच रहा हूँ वो ठीक है, वैसे ही हूँ, this is what I am and this is how I'll always be. But that is not true. We have the power to change the situation that we are in, and we understand how that goes about. So now let us try and understand what ahankar is. We understood what the man is, we understood what buddhi is, we understood what chit is, and now let us understand ahankar. What is the ahankar is the I factor that we have in us, which makes me different from you, the identifying factor, right? But what happens when it can take different flavors and then cause problems for us? This ego can cause problems for us if we are in either a superiority complex or an inferiority complex, which means what? That I'm comparing myself to the other and I think that I am better than the other or I am worse than the other. And what are the points that we compare ourselves with? Either our material wealth or our knowledge or our wealth or our beauty or our power, physical power. So these are things that we use to compare ourselves with the other and remain either in a superiority complex or an inferiority complex. The ego can either have a guilt complex or a victim consciousness either also. So what is that? We keep blaming ourselves for something that has happened and not let go of that memory. So when you blame yourself, you feel guilty. When you blame somebody else for your situation, if I am feeling miserable today, I keep blaming somebody else. Oh, my father said this to me and he was not right. So what am I doing? I'm blaming my father for my state of mind right now. When we try and understand that our mind and our moods and our feelings and emotions are all created by us, and we have the direct power to change it. So then we come to that stage where we don't blame others for the way we are, but we take charge of our own mind and intellect, and we create the world that we want to live in. The third flavor of ahankar is defensive or aloof consciousness. When we interact in society, Sometimes we tend to defend ourselves or justify whatever we do, or sometimes you want to just stay away from people and say, no, I'm different, I don't want to intermingle with this. So that is defensive or aloof consciousness. The fourth is attacking or intimidating. These are all opposites. If you notice, these are all opposites that affect the mind. So it is attacking or intimidating consciousness. Then the fifth is complaining consciousness. We keep complaining about the same thing over and over again. And what are we doing? We are empowering that misery or that negative thought within us. And then that becomes your habit, that becomes your nature. And it just, just like we get up in the morning and we brush our teeth and have a bath, we tend to also become, negative and miserable and sad and complaining about everything that's happening around us. The sixth one is judgmental ego. They will find that, oh, this is not okay, this is okay. It's a little different from the complaining consciousness, where the complaining consciousness can't be happy with even the best of situations. When you are in even the best of situations, you will try to find faults. And then that becomes a habit with us, that we are trying to find fault with everything. The judgmental ego will stay apart and say, oh, this is not good, this is good, that is good, that is not good. So it's a little different from the complaining consciousness. And then there is this doership. Doership means I am responsible for everything that I do. And we take on the burden of everything. That again can cause difficulties in your mind. And the eighth is self-oriented, where you are so selfish that you think of only me and myself and you don't bother about the others. Again, how that leads to misery, we will see later. So these are the flavors of ahankar or ego that we are trying to understand. Yeah. So mental health would include emotional, social, and psychological well-being. However, a common perception is that mental health is absence of any mental disorder, whereas a healthy mind would be one which is calm, which is clear, which is detached, with controlled emotions, and does not get easily disturbed. So we saw through understanding how the mind works, how it functions, through understanding how the intellect functions, through understanding what chit is and how we create habits and tendencies by repeated behavior and thoughts, and what the ego can do, we then can look and observe how we think and try and truncate that and change those patterns so that we move from being unhappy people to happy people, from being negative to positive. Yeah. Our mind is a temperamental, aggressive, confused monkey. Mental stress, improper diet, improper food intake, improper habits can become causes of disease if care is not taken. So repeated behavior, repeatedly, if we are eating improperly, if we are sleeping improperly, if we are not aware of our habits, if we consume alcohol and smoking every single day without wanting to take care, these all then are going to contribute to your mental state of negativity or unhappiness. Adi means disturbances which originate due to mental stress are the primary cause of disease. These are mental disturbances that we cause ourselves. How? Through again viparyaya, through misconceptions, through misjudgments, through wrong behavior. We tend to repeat those And then that becomes a constant state of depression, a constant state of agitation, a constant state of a disturbed mind. Yeah. Vyadi is the manifestation of the same in the body as illness or disease. So when we harbor these negative thoughts and negativity in us over a long period of time, this is going to become an illness, a physical illness, where it will cause you aches and pains and so many other, it manifests as so many other diseases. 90% of the illnesses that we have are psychosomatic in nature, which means caused by the mind first and translated into physical diseases. And how do we cause this misery? How do we make ourselves miserable? Let us try and understand that as well. So, because unless we understand what is misery and understand how we make ourselves miserable, how are we going to make ourselves happier souls, right? And that is what our intention ultimately is. So, what are the causes of an agitated mind? Miseries are called kleshas, and these five are what causes an agitated mind. Asmit is ego, which we just went through, all the different flavors of the ego that cause disturbances in the mind. Rag is intense likes and attachment. We get attached to all the pleasurable experiences that we have, and then we want them to be repeated over and over again. If that doesn't happen, then we make ourselves miserable because we want that at all cost. Yeah, so that is called rag. And what is dvesh? Dvesh are dislikes, intense dislikes, where you have had unpleasant memory of something. You let that unpleasantness grow in your mind. You don't let go of that, but you stick, you hold on to that. You get attached to those dislikes. And they become so intense in your mind that your mind keeps getting agitated over it. Yeah. That is another cause of misery. Then abhinivesh. Abhinivesh is fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of death is the biggest fear that most people have. Fear of what will happen in the future, anxiety about those issues can create unnecessary tension within you. It is not justified because it is something that has not actually happened. It will or may happen in the future, but we make ourselves uncomfortable with it right now. Fear of losing somebody one is attached to, fear of losing something that we are attached to. That anxiety then becomes a horror in our mind. It takes over the mind completely because we keep on empowering these fears in our mind. Similarly, with rag and dvesh, of course, that we are empowering these two, and these emotions then take over your mind completely so that we are not able to function in a calm and composed manner, and we are not able to take proper decisions. When the mind reaches that state of agitation, nothing helps because it is absolutely overpowering your mind. And that such a mind is called a clished mind. So in order to avoid such situations, understanding and training the mind and intellect from the beginning is very important. Avidya is ignorance of our true nature. Avidya is not realizing that we are not the mind, we are not the body, we are not the intellect, but we are the pure Atma, the pure soul, which is Satchitanand, which is blissful. It is because we get involved and attached to our emotions, involved and attached to our mind patterns, to our thoughts, that we live in ignorance and we live with unhappiness. So these are the 5 kleshas that can cause an agitated mind. And then we also have, we have threefold suffering in this world. Most of it is caused by ourselves. But then there are certain situations where you cannot escape pain. That is something that we have no control over, which is adhyatmic is pain caused by the self, imbalance in one's own mind and body. And we have just gone through the causes of that, of self-inflicted pain. But there is adibhautik pain, which is caused by other living beings of the world, which means harm, physical harm. And an animal or a bacteria or a germ or an insect can cause pain to us. That is something that we have no control over, right? That is called adibhautik. And adidevik is pain caused by natural forces. Now, these are natural calamities like earthquakes and, like COVID or like plague or, these kind of floods that can happen. Now, these are again natural disasters that we have no control over. But most of the time, our pain, our misery, our agitated mind is caused by adhyatmic pain, which is caused by imbalance in our own body and mind. Imbalance because we don't understand how to train the mind to be happy. Yeah. So, how do you work on the mind? We have gone through all the functions, how it functions, and now we try to find solutions, right? We have to understand the power of the mind. We have to understand how we can train this mind to be more blissful. Yeah. And the first and the foremost is to be focusing on now, on the present moment. When you are involved right now with whatever we are speaking of, discussing over here, your mind is stable. You're not agitated, right? The more you focus on now, your mind starts becoming stable. Right now, around me, there is no fear of any attack coming. Right now, nobody is speaking harshly to me. Right now, everything, all situation is stable. So let me enjoy this moment. This is how one focuses on the now. We have 4 potentials of the mind. We have the powers that we can generate within us in order to be happy. So let us see those 4 potentials of the mind. The first one is that you can initiate any emotion in your mind right now. If you want to feel love, if you want to feel pleasure, if you want to feel courage, you can initiate that emotion right now just by deciding that I want to feel happy, just by deciding that I want to smile right now. There is nothing that can stop you if you decide to create that emotion in your mind right now, in spite of the situations outside us. What are the situations? There is either a thing that can bother you, or a person that can bother you, or a situation that can bother you. These are external factors that influence us. But if we want to free our mind of the external factor and decide that I want to smile right now, nobody can stop me, in spite of what is happening around me. So that is the power of the mind. You can initiate any emotion in your mind right now. Then the second power is that you can give up or change any emotion you may be feeling right now. So if I am feeling sad and I want to desperately decide that I want to give up this sadness and change my mood, that too is possible. That too is the power of the mind. You can give up or change any emotion you may be feeling right now. How? By distracting your mind from the thoughts that are empowering it right now. You distract your mind through breathing, through watching something else, through putting your attention somewhere else. We can change that emotion that you're feeling right now. That is the second power of the mind. The third is repetition of the same thought or emotion becomes a habit. So be very, very aware of this, that if I am repeating my miserable thought, if I am empowering it, if I don't want to let go of this thought that my teacher told me I am stupid in my class when I was 3 years old, I remember that even today and make myself feel that miserable and inferior, then what am I doing? I am inflicting that on myself. Once somebody said something negative years ago, what have I done? I have enlivened that moment for myself every time I think about it. That incident happened only once, but I have let it become an imprint in my mind. So these thoughts, same thought, repetition of the same thought will become a habit. If I decide to create a happy thought within myself, then that same thought, if I keep repeating, what will happen? It will become a habit. So my mind will be blissful. And we see that around us. There are people who are unhappy with wherever you put them. They may be in the best of situation. They may be having a fantastic holiday in a beautiful place. But if their mind is not happy, the outside circumstances are not going to make them happy. And similarly, you will find that a child who has nothing to eat and is wearing tattered clothes, is on the roadside, is smiling away to glory and in his most happiest state, laughing gleefully. So it is not the surrounding, poverty that is influencing the mind and letting him be smiling or happy. It is in our hands. In spite of the situation, you can create what you want, whether it is a happy situation or a sad situation. And repetition of the same thought or emotion will become a habit. So what you habitually train your mind to do, it will do automatically later. You will see people who are happy in spite of all the pains and aches they may be having. They may be ill, but they'll still smile and be happy. And there are some who are perfectly all right, who will keep complaining about the situation, about the aches and pains that they have. So it all depends on which power, which thought you want to empower. It is as simple as that. Observing your thoughts and choosing your thoughts well. You also have the choice to give up that habit. For example, if I have an inferiority complex, or if I have a superiority complex, or if I have a habit of getting angry and I have no control over it, if I want to change that habit, if I determine, if I make up my mind, then it is possible for me to change that habit. That is also the power of the mind. Just as habits are created, so habits can be changed as well. How? Not by suppressing anger, but by understanding what anger is doing to me, how it is harming me, and how it is not effective in actually getting the result that I want. When you understand, when you rationalize, then you are able to override that emotion. And what is functioning over there? Your intellect. And that intellect has to be trained by you. to do proper discrimination between what is good for you and what is not good for you. By making up your mind and daily practice with discipline, which is called what? Sadhana. It is a tough thing to develop. But then these habits and these negativities that we have harbored within us have taken years of repeated action. So we also need to do years of repeated action to undo the damage that we have done to our mind. By understanding and then doing daily practice and then discipline, we can change our mind and we can be happier. So these are the 4 powers and potentials of the mind that we can use anytime. Ways to improve that, ways to know your mind is again choosing inputs wisely, as we have discussed. Watch your thoughts. See what choosing inputs definitely is very important. Watch what you are seeing, what news, what movies, what gossip, what all that we put into us is affecting your mind, is making an impression in your chit. Watch your thoughts. Observe them. Are they positive? Are they helping me? Are they making me happy? If this thought is making me unhappy, then there is something wrong with it. Let me examine this unhappy thought. Am I justified in thinking this unhappy thought? And do I want to be unhappy? Is the first choice. The first choice that we have to make is whether I want to be happy or not. And only then will I make the choices of happy thoughts versus unhappy thoughts. Watch your mind, see how it acts, see what options it is giving you. Watch your intellect, see whether it is making the right decisions or not, or is it working on viparyaya, on misconceptions that I have, the belief systems that we have harbored within us. Are they right? Do a reality check on those belief systems, because that decides what kind of thoughts and choices we will make. Do a reality check on your premises. And in order to purify the mind, bring it to that state of calmness, bring it to that state of stability where there is no agitation, one has to work towards it. And these things help. Shuddhi, which is purifying the mind, and we will go into that one of these days. Satsang, the company you keep is very important. If you are trying to give up alcohol, if you're trying to give up cigarette smoking, then you have to keep that kind of company. Otherwise, if you go back to whatever habits, whatever other people are doing will influence you as well. So keeping good company is important. Swadhyay, self-study, is when you become the object of your study. When you observe yourself. When you observe your thoughts, when you observe your mind, when you observe your intellect, when you observe what you're doing right and what you're not doing right through the day, what is making you happy and what is making you unhappy, and how to foster happy thoughts and happy mind, working on that, all that requires self-study. And seva. Seva, you will understand and experience that when you are unselfish, when you are inclusive, when you think about the good of others, you become more happy. And that is a matter of experience. You do good to others, it will give you a lot more happiness than when you are selfish and snatch from others. That also we will be exploring when we do the Shuddhikaran of the mind. But these are topics or headings that I'm just giving you. I'm sure a lot of you know a lot of what I'm saying, but repeated reminders of this can help us and go a long way. Then Chintan Manan Nidhi Dhyasam. When we listen to good thoughts, when we listen and understand, the scriptures, then it is necessary for us to also ponder over these thoughts and see how we can apply this to our lives. So that is Chintan, Manan, and Nidhi Dhyasam, and then apply the knowledge. We know a lot of, we know what is good, what is not good, but how much are we able to apply that in our lives, apply that in our way of thinking and our intellect is important. Concept of chit prasadan means a happy state of mind. When you want to move from an agitated mind to a happy state of mind, what helps are these four things. I think we discussed this last time as well. Maitri, which is friendliness in our nature and keeping company of friendly and happy people. If you keep company of complaining souls, then your mind starts working that way as well. So keep company of happy people. Karuna, be compassionate towards those who are suffering, but don't get attached to their suffering. That is why good satsang is very important, to remind you of what we need to do. Mudit is encouraging good works and strengthening positive works in others and in oneself as well. So we influence people positively. When we influence them to be happy, we ourselves get a lot of bliss and happiness from that. Upeksha is do not dwell and stay in any kind of negativity. Ignore what is negative. Ignore what is unhappy. Distract your mind from whatever is unhappy. Indifference towards those who are doing bad things, wicked things, has to be developed. Not hatred. Hatred again will cause agitation in your mind. Hatred again will cause anger in your mind. So you are harming yourself through these emotions. One has to understand that. And that's why ignoring or indifference to them is important. You cannot change the whole world. What you can influence, you try to influence positively. But when your influence is not going to help a situation, you let go. That is upeksha. Do not empower or strengthen any negativity. Your mind will blossom if you develop these attitudes. There are four types of people: happy, sad, good, and evil. So, association with the right people is important as it creates sanskars. As this is what we understood right now, how these impressions are created in your mind and are stored as memories. And based on these memories, we are making our decisions and judgments and thoughts. It leaves a huge imprint on our mind. So be mindful of people and places as well, because even places make an impact on our mind field. For example, you will find that your state of mind is different when you're visiting a temple or a church or a mosque. And your state of mind is different when you're visiting a casino or a bar or a movie theater. Yeah. So be aware of what the ambience is doing to your mind. Places also have a deep impact on the mind, not just people. Being aware of all these issues and all these things helps us to develop a stable mind. Health is a state of complete physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual well being, and not merely absence of disease. And this total health is a byproduct of yoga. What is yoga? Yoga is bringing integrity into your body, mind, intellect. When everything within you wants the same thing and is aspiring to the same thing, and that is a balanced state of mind. That is yoga. According to medical scientists, yoga is successful because of the balance created in the nervous and endocrine systems, which directly influence all other systems and organs of the body. Someday we will do discussions on these energy channels that we have in our systems, which again influence the endocrine system and the nervous system. So everything is interconnected. Your mind, your body, your intellect, your soul, your true self is all interconnected. Learn to distinguish between what is what and how to use your tools of the body, mind, and intellect. Bringing integrity in what you think, what you do, and what you want. Alignment in thought, speech, and deed is yoga. So I will stop over here today. I've gone through, I'm sure, a lot of terminologies, and I hope you found that interesting. And if there are any questions or any comments, you are most welcome. Because we are in the process of learning together. I'm just sharing some things that I have learned recently, and I think that it is of use to a lot of us, and that's why I share this with you. But we are all learning together, so please, I would love your comments and your questions also. Yes, please, Vijay Lakshmi.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you so much for the beautiful presentation. It was very insightful, very informative. I felt that it's very easy to be having negative feelings, but for positivity, you have to make a conscious effort.
Yes, yes.
It's an effort.
Yes, that's true. It is an effort, it is discipline, it is training. It is definitely negativity takes charge very easily. Yes.
Very easily, without
Yes.
effort. You have
That's-
explained everything beautifully with lovely examples also. I love
Yeah,
the session.
is that even negativity is a matter of repetition.
Yes.
Why is negativity so easy? It is because our inputs have become like that. You know, we are exposed to so much of media. And when you look at the news, when you look at the serials, when you look at whatever is coming our way, there is so much of negativity in it. Where do we find, you know, positive feedback? I'm sure there's a lot of good happening all over the world. Which
Yes.
news channels covers those goods?
I know.
If we were exposed to goodness, if we were exposed to positivity, then it would come easily to us. Like it used to be in Satyug, like it used to be in Ram Raja. But we have chosen this method of living for whatever reason, you know, whatever evolution has taken place. We are exposed to this kind of information, negative information all the time. And that's why we need to go back to these rishis and the knowledge that we have, superb knowledge that we have, that the rishis have given us. But how many are taught this knowledge? In our schools and colleges, we don't
No,
we teach our children how to think, how the mind functions, how the intellect functions. We just teach them how to make good money.
Yes.
and go after material gains. But does that make you happy? No.
No.
Happiness is within you, and we never are taught how to be happy. Instead of that, all these negative influences are bombarded on us on a
Yes.
daily basis. What's going to happen?
I wish I learned all these things at a younger age.
Yes, definitely. I mean, if we were taught this of how to use the mind, and we identify with the mind and intellect, but we are never taught that these are tools and we can influence them. We can turn our mind around and make it positive. We can turn our emotions around and make them happy. And it is all within us, not external. But our total educational system focuses only on the external factors and not on the internal.
True. Thank you so much.
Welcome, my pleasure. Anyone else? Any comments? I would love your comments, because we, as I said, we are all learning together. Our experiences help each other.
Hello.
Yes, Kanchan.
Yeah, it was really an awakening, for myself, that I was trying to analyze how far I've reached, like what I can understand, what I've changed myself from being sad to, happy, content. But, sometimes I feel very affected by people who are very negative.
Yeah.
Recently I was traveling somewhere, so one passenger, she came to me. She was a lady, I think in 50s, and she said, are you a psychologist? I said, no. She said, because I am one, so I wanted someone, to have with me in my college, and I thought of you. So that I said, oh, I'm so happy, so glad to know that I have changed myself. But sorry, I'm just a homemaker. But she said, no, there's positiveness in your thoughts. So, which made me think that, yeah, I am doing something good, at least for myself.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. But what happens is that when we bring in changes in ourselves, we are also bringing changes in our environment. People
Yeah,
around you, if you are happy, you will find that you're making people around you also happy. It in
yes,
you have a happy, smiling child in your midst, it'll make everybody smile. It influences your environment. So if you are
like,
becoming happier and you are helping everybody else as well, you know.
like as this member said now, like we wish that we could have learned this long back. But the thing is, even our children, there are hardly, you can say, 5% who can understand at this age. And when we tell them, they say no. Like my son, I tell him, Nikhil, take care of your health, take care of yourself. Mama, you don't know how much tension I have.
Exactly. That's
So
what.
I said, because you don't want to do. You have got all the means to do it, but you don't do it. So it affects me, but I try to keep myself cool. I can't change him now, but as we say, when the जो महात्मा है वो lecture देते हैं जो भी, so even out of 1,000 people, even if 5 understand, it's they achieve something, you know.
Exactly.
So I say,
You
okay, I should keep on preaching, telling him one day he will understand.
The thing is that is why introducing yoga at an early age in schools makes a difference, because we will be hopefully we'll be discussing. If you people are interested, I will go through the yamas and niyamas of yoga, which are the basis of mind purification. If you are finding all these talks interesting, I can expand on these topics when we can have that. So when you discuss the yamas and niyamas of yoga, you'll understand how it helps to purify the mind. and how the asanas and the pranayams, the breathing techniques, help to stabilize the mind. The young children today are full of agitation and tension, full of stress, when it should not be so, and if this training, even if they do just the asanas and pranayams, just that, those techniques, if they are done like we used to have PT classes in school, no, physical training classes in school, exercises we were made to do. Similarly, if they are made to do these breathing techniques, whether they want it or not, their mind keeps calming down, stabilizing. So introduce them, your children, at a very young age to yoga. And you will see the difference, the change it happens. It happens at a very subtle level. They won't even realize how they are changing, but their minds calm
Their
down.
mind, yeah.
Yes, yes. Their minds calm down. And that's why, I mean, I took up this topic of what actually the philosophy of yoga does. We know yoga is only asanas, but we don't understand what is the philosophy behind why they ask us to do what they ask us to do. And that is my attempt to share this with you. Next time, we will discuss more on stressful situations and how to purify the mind as well. Man ki shuddhi kaise kar sakte hain? Because all these have an effect on us. We really are bombarded with so much of negativity that we need to make this special effort to counteract it. You know. Anyone else? Any other comments? If not, then I'll finish with a small prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyut dukh bhag bhavet, which means let everyone be happy, let everyone be free of disease, let everyone see only good. Peace. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day, all of you. Yes. And thanks for joining in, and please join in again.
Sure. Actually, my sister Geetu, she also wants to. I sent her the link. At present, she is hospitalized.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's asthma attack. But she said she will join in one of the day.
Sure.
We
No
wish
problem.
her a speedy recovery.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Ma'am, can I have a question? You have time?
Yes, sure, sure. Yes, yes, definitely. Please.
Yeah, a very valuable session. And actually, when you think of it, it's all common sense, but we keep forgetting, the basic
Yes,
principles.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
Uh, so I can relate to every word of what you are telling. Okay.
Mhm.
But I just want to ask, how to deal with people whom you cannot get away with also, whom you are responsible, but they have a narcissistic tendencies of blaming and, always on a complaining mode, not interested in solution, not interested in resolving the problems. However, if you convince, and you are in a catch-22 situation, you can neither convince them nor remain aloof and indifferent, because you have to solve the problem somehow. Okay, but the other party is not interested in solution. So what sort of mindset,
Yeah,
balanced mindset
it is a catch-22 situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a catch-22 situation, but if you can't influence others to change, then
Yes.
the only other thing is to accept the situation with serenity and fortify your mind. Deal with yourself and make yourself stronger by through pranayam, through meditation, through understanding, through uh, when you rationalize the situation, and you know that they are the way they are, and also to accept that each person is at a different level of spiritual evolution, that
Yes.
everyone cannot be the same. We
Yes.
all are unique, and we all have those paths to travel towards spiritual evolution.
But ma'am, how to
Time
practically
will
get
come.
along with life, future? If somebody is stuck up in the past problems, 100, 20 years back, 30 years back, wanting to discuss only that, how do you get along in the future? How to carry your family? You also
Yeah,
have to travel, and you have to carry your family also along. So
if
this is
possible,
the problem.
if possible, I don't know if it is possible. If they're staying in your own home, you cannot do much about it. But if possible, try to keep away from such people. You know, there is
Yeah, that makes
don't,
sense. Yeah.
don't mingle with such people, just keep away. Because that is only going to harbor negativity. If they don't want to change, then
Yes.
you have to distance yourself. Protect yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And
That's
Probably
probably they need help, I think.
no, if
Yeah.
they don't want help, see,
Hmm.
some people are willing to accept help. There you
Hmm.
help them. Some people are willing to accept guidance. There you help them. You try to influence their way of thinking. But when they don't, when they just are intent on damaging their mind and holding on to those thoughts, then the only thing is to at least protect yourself. Keep away from such
Okay.
people who are all the time harming your mind.
Yeah. That's.
One has to do that. One has to protect oneself.
Madam, are you available for private counseling?
Yeah, I can do that, no problem. I
Can you
also,
share the number, please?
yeah, sure. And I also take Bhagavad Gita classes. So if anybody is
Okay.
interested, I can add your names to them, to those.
No, I am talking about family counseling, family
Sure,
problems.
I can try. I mean, I'm not a qualified counselor, but
Okay.
I can definitely try. I mean, I'm available for you to talk to me, and if we can sort out certain
Sure.
things.
I would like to have your number, ma'am.
Sure, definitely. Do
Thank
you
you
want
so
to?
much.
I'll put it in the chat group. Shall I
Chat,
put it?
or you can WhatsApp to my number. Yeah, okay. You
Sir,
can put
I
in
will
chat.
note with you. number.
Archana can help us. Archana,
Oh, yes. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much.
I'll WhatsApp in the number.
Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am, you are having this session every
We
week.
just started. I've just started this last Thursday. We had one
I
today.
see.
One. And I will try and share whatever little I know with everyone. I don't mind. So I will keep
No, it's very, very, very
sharing
valuable,
it.
ma'am. I really appreciate it. I am
We-
glad I attended this session. Thank you so
We
much.
can all learn from each other.
Exactly. That is the process.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you and have a lovely day, all of you. Be happy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Same to you.
WhatsApp call works over there in Bahrain?
Yes, WhatsApp call works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good day, everyone.